UDM. This is Alidon Jean-Francois,
I'm Cole Hostetler.
and this is
Titan
Titan Talk. All right, this is a very exciting episode. We have a special guest here. Now, for the people who are probably watching this, you can probably take a guess of who this is. But if you're not, if you're just listening to this, having this on the background, cool. So my special guest that we have here is from Shelby Township, Michigan, a Detroit alum of the class of 2018. He started his career of coaching as a GA right after graduating, and he was an assistant coach starting at 2021 and 2024, and became a head coach at Detroit Mercy 2024. He's an eight-year professional lacrosse player at the PLL, playing for the Philadelphia Water Dogs, a short stick defensive midfielder, and when he was playing in college at Detroit Mercy, he was an all MAC first team, three-time Detroit Mercy athletic director honor roll, seventh overall in cost turnovers per game, tallied 83 ground balls. And for people who don't know about lacrosse, ground balls are the toughest thing of the game. During his senior year, he averaged 5 ground balls total in each game, and the most legendary record that he has is 34 cost turnovers his senior year, which was the most cost turnovers by a short stick defensive midfielder in NCAA history. And I am so glad and so honored to introduce my coach, Charlie Hayes.
Thank you, Don. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Obviously, really excited to to be a part of this new show and kind of kickstart it all off.
Yeah. So we're gonna just ask, how are you? How are you doing? What has this season been like for you so far this year?
Yeah, doing good. We are 5 games in right now. Kind of off to a little bit of a slow start, but the practice this week has been really good. Our goal at the beginning of the year is to make sure we're playing our best lacrosse at the end of the year come conference play, and so not necessarily where we want to be currently, but still a long season ahead of us, and just working on improving every day right now.
Yeah, for sure. I just remember also being a part of the team. I know the first few games are actually our toughest game, is to prepare us for conference play. Now, obviously, a lot of people may be confused of why don't we just be like other teams where we can just play teams our level. But what is the philosophy behind that?
Yeah, I think first things first. We're a Division I lacrosse program here in Michigan, and there is not a whole lot of Division I lacrosse programs in the Midwest in general. And so, we look at it two ways in how we go about our non-conference schedule. I think one being we want to play the best teams, in the country in our non-conference schedule. Two being easy travel as well. We once we get into conference play at the end of the year, we travel a lot to the East Coast for a lot of those games, and so the travel can be a little bit difficult on us. And so, being here in the Midwest, we play Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Marquette every single non-conference schedule. So those are all arguably top 20 teams year in and year out, and so we think that's going to set us up for success come the end of the year. Playing the best teams in the country, and it just makes a lot of sense for us geographically as well.
Yeah, and I want to ask, kind of build off of that. And this is the case for a lot of mid-majors across different sports, whether that be basketball or football, baseball, obviously lacrosse. But the non-conference schedule is one that's very difficult, and mid-major programs kind of set it up that way. As a head coach, how do you kind of evaluate, whether it's a win or a loss, how do you kind of evaluate those games against really tough top competition?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Obviously every single game that we play, we want to win. But when we play some of the best teams in the country, for instance, we opened up with Ohio State this year. They were a top 10 team in the country. I think at the preseason polls, they were number 9 in the country. And, our goal every single time we touch the field is to come out of there with a win. But, when you play some of those really good teams, you have to make sure that you're just taking advantage of every opportunity. And so, we try to highlight, the good and the bads every single week. But our goal is just ultimately to play our brand of lacrosse and to work on getting better every single week.
Yeah. No, so with this podcast, we were always trying to pivot away from solely focusing on lacrosse or the sport of what you're playing and what you're coaching. So I have some questions for you, and I want people to get to know you more, not only just as a coach, but also as a person. So what made you fall in love with lacrosse in the first place?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And honestly, I don't know if it was lacrosse I fell in love with as much as just competing. I grew up playing three sports my entire life. In high school, I was a three-sport athlete playing football, basketball, and lacrosse. And so, where I grew up, lacrosse was honestly the third sport that you kind of focused on. And, obviously I loved the game of lacrosse, but more than anything, I just loved competing and kind of being the man in the arena. And so, you know, lacrosse specifically to me, I think, started really growing and evolving because I think it's very similar to a number of other sports. Having played football and basketball in addition to lacrosse growing up, I think lacrosse has characteristics of a number of different sports. And so I feel like, I take things from the football field and the basketball court and can use that on the lacrosse field. And so I think that's what kind of made me fall in love with the game so much as I got to the college level.
What positions did you play in the other two?
When I was playing football, I played two ways. All of high school, I was a wide receiver and a defensive back, and in basketball, I was a point guard. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what got you into coaching, actually? Like, what did you ever imagine yourself, actually, when you were playing? Did you ever think that you would ever become a coach?
Yeah, I can't say I did, honestly. Again, having played sports my entire childhood and really, playing football, basketball, and lacrosse, every sport really overlapped throughout the calendar year. And so, I had always knew I was going to be involved in athletics some way, but, honestly, I probably can't say that I ever imagined, being a college lacrosse coach. That kind of came a little bit at the end after graduation and after getting my feet wet in the coaching world.
Okay. Now I want to ask. Obviously, you're still amidst your playing career too.
Yeah.
I must admit, I didn't know that until Ali Don and I were preparing for. I didn't know that you were. I knew that you did play. I didn't know that you were still playing, and that the PLL season was not the same as the collegiate season. How do you balance those? Because obviously you're technically in the off season of your playing career, but you're obviously in the coaching season right now. How do you balance the two? That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to still play and at the professional level. Honestly, professional lacrosse is not, obviously where the NFL, the NBA, or the NHL and MLB are. The sport as a whole is still growing, and at the professional level, the sport is growing as well. I honestly think that the PLL can get to where a lot of these major professional sports franchise or organizations are. But right now, honestly, you see a lot of professional lacrosse players coaching college lacrosse as well. The seasons kind of just line up perfectly. Our professional season pretty much starts mid-May and goes all summer long and concludes kind of at the start of September. And so, for me, it can be difficult to balance in the summertime as it pertains to recruiting. The summertime for recruiting as a college lacrosse coach is really what you spend most of your time doing. And so, it's been a little bit difficult to balance, but, having great assistant coaches that, are on the recruiting trail in the summertime, really helped me, balance the two. And so, just been really fortunate to be able to play at the professional level. And like I said, there's a lot of, professional lacrosse players that are coaching across the country as well and doing the same thing. So.
Oh. And with that being said, what advantages do you think that you have as a coach, being a current player and a coach at the same time? What advantages do you think you have?
Yeah, I mean, still playing for one, keeps me up to speed with everything. It gives me in my opinion, a good mindset in terms of understanding what my players are going through on a day-to-day basis because I'm, still doing it as well. But I think more than anything, playing at the professional level has given me the opportunity to meet some new people. I'm playing with the best lacrosse players in the world. Some of the best lacrosse players ever I've shared the field with and shared locker rooms with. And so, being able to build relationships with, those teammates that, like I said, are also coaching across the country at numerous other, Division I schools, and then playing under some pretty awesome coaches as well. At the professional level, a lot of the coaches in the pro game are ex-college coaches that have had really successful careers at the college level. And so, I've had the ability to play under coaches like Andy Copeland and Bill Tierney currently. And Bill Tierney is the winningest college lacrosse coach in NCAA history. He's won 7 national championships, and so he's my coach currently. And, having the ability to, again, be in the locker room and be in film sessions and on the practice field with him, I take a lot of what, I learned from those guys and bring it to, to my team here at Detroit.
So obviously you played here, but how was your journey from playing lacrosse growing up to actually playing at Detroit Mercy? Like, what was the thing that drew you most to the Titans here?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, like I said earlier briefly, lacrosse was probably my third sport growing up. I went to a public school in Shelby Township, Michigan, and so, for those that don't know, lacrosse in general in Michigan is still growing. It's not the hotbed on the East Coast where it's taken as seriously as it is out there, and so. For me growing up, football was everything, going to a big private school. And so lacrosse wasn't focused on as much. And, as I was kind of getting older and older and trying to realize and figure out what I was going to do at the college level, I got an offer to come to Detroit Mercy, and it was my only Division I offer that I had. And so, I've always been someone that wants to compete at the highest level possible. And, I'm from Detroit, Shelby Township, like I said, but I'm from here. And so I just really wanted to have the opportunity to play at the highest level possible and compete kind of in my hometown and for my city. And so that's kind of what got me here.
Yeah. And I kind of want to pivot a little bit on something, especially from a coaching perspective. A lot of people always talk about the grind of the athlete, but what does the grind look like from a coaching perspective?
Yeah, honestly, it's not too different. I at least try to have the same mindset. You're putting in long hours on a daily basis, and my biggest thing is just making sure that I'm putting our guys in the best possible situations to be successful. You know what I mean? If our guys are practicing, I'm there. If our guys are in the weight room working out, I'm there. So I'm going through the same kind of stuff that they are, not as physically demanding, obviously, but I'm here, all day, every day. And like I said, my biggest thing is just making sure that I'm here for our guys and putting them in the best situations possible. I think one of the unique things for me, here at Detroit is, not only am I the head coach, I'm also the defensive coordinator of the team. So balancing that can be a little bit difficult at times. I feel like I wear a lot of hats around here, but again, at the end of the day, it's just making sure that I'm doing everything I possibly can to help our team win and put our guys in good situations to be successful. So it's a grind, but I enjoy every second of it.
That's what's up. Yeah, no, like little that a lot of people don't know about. I know he doesn't talk much about himself, but this guy here, like I always see him in the weight room all the time, still to this day, even though he's a pro player. Like I kind of take on to what he does, and I always look up to him, and he already knows that about me. I always tell him all the time, like he's such an influential coach. That's why I feel like a lot of us players, we were so bought into the system because not only are you just a coach, but you're also a person that understands, what we're going through, like you said earlier. So it's really cool to see that our head coach is still going as hard as we are. So like that kind of keeps us motivated to keep going. So
yeah, I appreciate that, Don.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
So obviously, like we already have stated, we want to get to know you as a lacrosse coach and player, but also on a personal level and give everybody else the chance to do that as well. So I'm going to pivot to some more personal questions. So outside of lacrosse, even though obviously it takes up a big part of your life, it's a big piece of it, what are some things that you like to do outside of lacrosse in your free time?
Yeah, I think that has changed over the years. I'm fortunate to, again, I mentioned growing up here in Michigan, not too far from campus here. And so I have the, nice ability to have college friends still in the area as well as childhood friends and high school friends. And so I do a really good job on any, free weekends that I have of making sure I'm spending time with, with my close friends and hanging out with them as much as possible. I think as I've gotten older with my free time now, I really just want to spend quality time with my wife and, my wife and my dog, really. Spend quality time with them and, make sure that we're making the most of every opportunity we have. So, yeah.
Oh, what's your dog's name and what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Bernedoodle. So,
okay.
Yeah, Bernedoodle, his name is Leo. He's 2.5 now, so he's a bit of a nightmare, but he's awesome. So
That's awesome.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, with you being a professional athlete, is there ever I know your nutrition is probably up to par all the time because obviously you got to feel your body right to perform well. But is there a go-to cheat meal that you enjoy?
Oh, that's tough. I don't know if I have a specific go-to cheat meal specifically. I'm a big dessert guy.
Okay.
So yeah, if I'm ever having a big cheat day, it's Probably just some ice cream, some cookies.
Okay.
Yeah, probably just some dessert of some sort.
Okay.
What's a go-to flavor or two?
Oh, I'm very simple.
Very
Yeah,
simple.
vanilla ice cream, chocolate chip cookies.
Okay,
Yeah, very
okay.
simple,
I
yeah.
respect it. I like that.
Yeah. Have you ever gone? Speaking of desserts, have you ever gone to like? I don't know if they have a lot of like a restaurant called BJ's here.
Yeah,
yeah.
we got BJ's.
Yeah. Do you have you ever got the like Pizookie at all? Because it's like ice cream and cookie. That's like one of my favorite things. So back home in Vegas, like all the time when I'm back, and for me too, like my cheat meal, like whenever my friends or when I go back home, we always like, oh, let's go to BJ's, let's get like some Pizookies, and I always get like I'd always get like the strawberry like shortcake Pizookie, which is like super dope. But like you should try it.
Is it like a big cookie and like a skillet?
Yeah,
I've had something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah. So I was like, I just like when you said ice cream and cookies, I'm like, yeah, I immediately thought of that.
I'd be having something like that at Buffalo Wild Wings weekly, honestly. Yeah, with the pick two meal deal.
Yeah.
2 entrees, 2 sides, and then the ice cream on top of the cookie for an extra like $2.99 with the deal.
Yeah.
So if it's anything similar to that, it's fire. So do you have a secret talent that most people don't know about? Obviously, people know that you're good at lacrosse and know a lot about lacrosse, but are there other things that you're pretty good at, have a talent for that people might not know about?
That's a good question as well. I like to consider myself very good at a lot of different things, not an expert at one specific thing. I'm a pretty good bar games guy, darts, shuffleboard. Golden tee. Actually, golden tee might be a hidden talent of mine. I'm very, very good at golden tee.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, nothing too specific.
Okay, got you. Okay, so we'll kind of like take it back a little bit. So when you were, not only just as an athlete, but as a student, what was your favorite spot to be at, or like to study, or like just to hang out, maybe just get away from things? What was your favorite spot on campus to?
Geez, man, I just spent a lot of my time in Callahan Hall, as I'm sure you guys did as athletes. My favorite place, it's gonna sound cliche, but the weight room for me and Titan Field were my favorite spots. I spent a lot of time during final exam weeks in the second floor of the library.
Okay.
But no, honestly, other than the weight room, our locker room, and the field, I wasn't spending time in many other places around here.
Got you.
So even though obviously a lot of your time as a student and now dominated by lacrosse, what was one outstanding memory that you can remember that didn't have to do with playing lacrosse as a player? What was one memory here at the university that you really look back on and remember fondly?
For me, outside of lacrosse, it was always just attending the men's basketball game versus Oakland. Obviously that's a huge game for us every single year. But honestly, yeah, those are probably my best memories. We really, back in those days, and it's been getting back to that as of late, I think, for the basketball program. But we used to pack the the stadium out and pack Callahan all out for those games, and so just getting all of the other sports teams out to Callahan Hall for that one specific game was always a good memory of mine for sure.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Now, how would your family or close friends would describe you in 3 words?
Probably loyal, hardworking, and fun. I know to probably most people, at least a lot of our players, they might not think the most fun, but yeah, probably loyal, hardworking, and fun.
Well, I'm gonna add on to the fun part because it took actually obviously being a player, and sometimes obviously when especially those hard days, it was not fun. But we have to I always have to have one of those days where you have a gut check, of course. Mm-hmm. But it took until when I was like, unfortunately, I broke my foot my last year, but I kind of. When I was not playing at that moment, but I was just being around the team, but then I've noticed a couple little things that you would do like during practice that I'm like, oh, okay, he's not always serious all the time. So it's just like he's actually a really funny guy, but it's just like you just have to catch him at the right time, kind of thing. So Yeah, no, definitely. I can definitely vouch for being fun because I'm like, oh yeah, I could tell you're definitely a fun guy to be around.
Appreciate that.
And as a coach, that can be kind of a difficult balance, when to be all business and when to be all serious and when to relax a little bit and, have fun with your players and whatnot. So anybody that's watching out there that might want to go into coaching or be a coach, how do you balance those things?
Yeah, it's very tough. I think first and foremost, one of the things that I always try to be is just consistent, right? I think, again, I've been playing sports and been on so many teams in my life, and have had so many different coaches. I've kind of seen every end of the spectrum, and the biggest thing for me is being consistently yourself. Authenticity is a word thrown out there a lot, but consistency for me is a big piece. And I think, yeah, balancing, being hardworking and all business, but then also, kind of having some fun aspects of things with your team, it can be tough. I think understanding what's fun to certain people is really important, right? I think a lot of people sometimes just, throw out, let's have fun today, right? It's like, well, what does that mean, right? Like everybody's got a different idea of what fun is. And so it's definitely difficult. I'm still, I'm a young coach. I'm still trying to work through that right now for sure.
Yeah. Okay, and with the next question I have for you is that it would have to be, if not lacrosse, what sport or another career path would you have pursued?
Yeah. When I was going through college, I was super into, because of lacrosse and, all of that stuff. I was big into strength and conditioning in the weight room. We now here at Detroit Mercy have an exercise science program that just started this fall. I think if that was around in 2014, 2015 when I enrolled here, that might have been something that I went into to study. I think if I wasn't coaching lacrosse, maybe a strength and conditioning coach or a football coach. At this point in time too, I can't see myself doing anything other than coaching and just being around sports and a team. So probably strength and conditioning coach or a football coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you had the chance to talk to your younger self, say that, player in 2014, 2015 enrolling here, what kind of advice would you give that Charlie Hayes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, for me it's pretty simple. It's something I've always lived by, but just, work hard and stay humble. I preach to our guys all the time about, emphasizing and working on just getting better every single day. I think I've mentioned it a couple times, today already. That's just something that I've always lived by. My dad kind of taught me and instilled those habits in me at a young age. So, if I could say anything to my younger self, just work hard, stay humble, and, really just make sure you're stacking good days.
Great advice for anybody.
No, 100%. And with that being said, how was Chuck in 2014, 2015 when you just got enrolling in the college? Like, what was that version of, well, people don't know, we call him Chuck as well. So what that version of Chuck, how was he?
Well, back in 2014, it was a way different day and age than it is now. When I committed to Detroit Mercy, I guess social media was around, but not to the extent that it is now. I showed up on campus my first day and didn't know anybody. Had knew some names and some faces that I had played with or against here in Michigan, but nowadays, you have a 12 to 15 person recruiting class, and they show up on campus and they've already met each other, known each other, and talked for 6 months. That wasn't really the case back then. So when I showed up on campus, man, it was just a fresh new start for me. Meeting new people and kind of having to just start all over, right? And that's something I talk to our guys about a lot. When you go to the college level, everybody is almost the best guy on their team in high school. When you get to college, you have a clean slate, right? Yeah. And so you kind of have to start over from ground zero. And, I guess that's just a long way for me to say, it was kind of the same person I am now. Let's walk in here, be the hardest working guy in the room, and make an impact, anywhere I can. But yeah, way different day and age back then than it is now. It was a nerve-wracking and exciting experience all at once, for sure.
So maybe some, younger high school, even maybe younger than that, lacrosse players out there watching this, as a coach, when it comes to recruiting, and maybe it's some of the attributes that you've already talked about, what are some things that you look for in a recruit when you're recruiting other than just being good at lacrosse?
Yeah, for me specifically, I look for multi-sport athletes. I think I can be a little biased having grown up and played 3 sports all of high school, but that is one of the most important things that I look for in the recruiting process, because when you get to the college level, lacrosse is what you are doing, 365 days of the year. When we get on campus, for the start of the college semester, we start practicing in September, and we're pretty much full go for the most part until May, and so it is a heavy day-to-day grind. And I feel personally that, kids that grow up playing multiple sports, going from one season to the next, when they get to the college level, it's normal to them, right? And then, the next point to that is, in high school when you're playing multiple sports, it's really for lacrosse, you're picking up your stick when basketball ends, and you're kind of just going. Like when you get to college and you have your lacrosse stick in your hand, all season long and all year long, your performance and your abilities really kind of skyrocket. So for me, going through the recruiting process, multi-sport athletes is huge. Guys that, again, the cliches, guys that work hard and play fast and have a whole lot of athleticism is specifically for me what's most important and what I look at. When you get to the college level, we're going to develop you and teach you, our ways and our systems. And so we really look for, sometimes the things that you can't teach, which is that athleticism and hard work.
Yeah. And you mentioned, wearing multiple different hats and, talked about hard work and what that means to you and how you want to how you want to represent your life. What exactly, what kind of legacy that you want to leave behind when it's all said and done? I know that's a far time from coming, but, but just kind of, think about it a little bit. What kind of legacy would you want to leave behind when you're probably, who knows when you'd be done with lacrosse completely, or when you would be done with coaching here at Detroit Mercy? What kind of legacy would you want to leave behind?
Yeah, I think whenever the day comes that I leave Detroit Mercy specifically, something that I heard, years ago was leave it better than you found it. For me as a coach here at Detroit Mercy specifically, I want to leave this program and this team better than I found it. And that's kind of, my big thing as I go through this kind of coaching career here at Detroit Mercy, that I'm making sure that I leave behind.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, once again, Coach, I have the utmost respect for you. You know that, a lot of us guys, especially the alumni that I talk to as well, we always talk about how much you mean to this program and how much you mean to Detroit Mercy, and we're all willing to go through a wall for you because especially the kind of presence that you bring or the expectations that you bring for our team and our program. It's just we all bought into it and we see the vision. So it's just it's an honor to have you here as our first guest. I'm super pumped about that, and I can't thank you enough for having the time to be here with me and Cole for this first episode.
Yeah, no, of course. Like I said, thank you guys for having me. It's an honor to be the first guest on the episode, and I'm excited to kind of see where you guys take this. I mean, this is very cool. When I was an athlete here, this would have been something that would have been awesome to have around. So I love what you guys are doing. Excited to kind of see where it goes.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Coach. Obviously, everybody knows you as just that, a coach, but hopefully after this episode, they've gotten to know you a little bit more about who you are, what you stand for, and, who's behind that coach.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, anytime. Well, that concludes this session of this episode. Later on, actually, we're going to actually have the players. So we just had the coach here for the first part, but we're going to have our next guest is Kyle Grant and Marcus Thundercloud. So stick around. We're going to have them shortly. And yeah, this concludes it. This is Ali Dawn, Jean-Francois once again.
I'm Hostetler.
And this